Well, Storm fans, want to thank you guys for tuning in yet again to the Storm Alerts. I'm Logan, as always, and we have today Coach Callahan, who really needs no introduction into the coaching world. Has 40 plus years of experience in the coaching. Coach, can you kind of give us a little bit of background of when you started coaching, where you've been, some of the highlights, anyways?
Well, I started coaching right after I got done playing. I played at Fresno State,
Okay.
and Fresno State is probably more well known now than it
Yeah.
was then. Even though they played SC back in the not when I was there, but
Yeah.
prior to when I was there, and things were a lot different then. I played inside linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
and there were three. There was a head coach and two assistant coaches that were full time, and so they had to use graduate assistants
Yeah.
or walk-ons from the community to
Mhm.
coach. And I uh, played inside linebacker, and we had a graduate assistant who had been a linebacker the
Yeah.
year before. And about halfway through the season, he decided that he was kind of a wild guy,
Yeah.
and he decided to take off. And we had a brand new defensive line coach and a brand new secondary coach.
Huh.
And they were both kind of struggling. They had
Mhm.
not coached in college before. One was
Okay.
coming out of high school, and one was coming out of a small college, Adams State,
Okay. Yeah.
Colorado. And they were overwhelmed with their position.
Yeah.
So as linebackers, we kind of got pushed over here, pushed over there, and they would usually just go, "Hey, Callahan, why don't you take the linebackers
Yeah.
over there and do something?" And so when I graduated, the coaching staff asked me if I'd stay in spring ball, still on scholarship. So,
Mhm.
and everybody that I lived with I lived with some guys that had redshirted, so they were a year behind me.
Yeah.
So everybody was going to the same place, and I've been used to it.
Yeah.
1:30 in the afternoon heading to practice.
Yeah.
So I said, sure. And that's really how I got started in coaching. I had no plans to coach, never thought about it. I was going to go to law school.
Okay.
I was a history major, and so I coached there for about 5 years, and I left there and went to Cal State Fullerton
Okay.
in Southern California, which no longer plays football, but at the time they had just jumped to the conference that Fresno State is. In those days, Fresno State was in the same conference with San Jose State and San Diego State and the University Pacific, which is there's no more football there.
Yeah.
And then actually Long Beach State, where there's no more football.
Yeah.
But Long Beach State was a powerhouse
in
that era. So I went down there and I coached because I grew up in Southern California, so that was kind of home to me. And I left there. I coached the linebackers when I was at Fresno State, and I coached the secondary when I was at Cal State Fullerton. I went on to one of the coaches that I coached with was got a high school job.
Okay.
And I wanted to be the head coach, and I didn't quite agree on everything. And I wanted to, kind of spread my wings and be a coordinator. And he offered me a job to be a coordinator. I thought I was a big-time college coach, and things were different back then. And I went to the high school and found out that I got a raise.
Yeah.
I was making way more money, and so did that. I coached there about 4 or 5 years in Southern California. Then I went to a school just down the road from there. I coached there for a couple years. Then I moved on to Mater Dei High School, which is largest parochial high school west of Mississippi, and very renowned for players. Seemed like half the quarterbacks at SC came from Mater Dei, and that was a great experience, like a college almost in a way. And from there, I went on to Cerritos Community College.
Okay.
And I played in community college myself, but I never, for whatever reason, thought of myself coaching in the community college. And I knew a couple people and got to talking. So I went up there and took a job up there coaching, which is where I met Coach Thomas, actually. He was a quarterback playing there when I was coaching. If you let him tell it, which he's very, very much will be willing to tell you
Yeah.
that I never spoke to him. but, and I think I must have spoke to him. But I tell him I always voted for him.
Yeah.
We had a big quarterback controversy,
Oh.
and the head coach was on one end of
Yeah.
the spectrum and the offensive coordinator. Anyways, and they brought us in as a deep. I want everybody in here. One of those kind of coaching meetings, and said, and so at the end of the day, he said, "We're going to vote." And I said, "I voted." So I tell guys, and I did. I voted for him. He was better than the other guy. But anyhow, that's how I first got to know him as a player there. And then he left and went on and played, and then followed his coaching path. And another young man who played before Gary played for me as a safety.
Yeah.
He went in, and then I brought him back to coach. I was a secondary coach when I started out. Then I became the coordinator. I brought him back to coach the linebackers for us.
Okay.
And he and Gary crossed paths there and became friends. And so then when that coach left and went a couple different places, but he ended up in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah.
And was the head coach at College of DuPage, which is where we got this one.
Yeah.
And where we were before we came to Dodge City. Then he left and went back to Southern Cal. Gary was the offensive coordinator, and I was the defensive coordinator. So we worked together there for 5. Then when the head coach left there, Gary became the head coach there. So I worked for Gary as the defense coordinator. And then we came here together to Dodge City. And Dodge City was my last stop. I topped out at 50 years. Barely made the 50. I went back to Southern California for about 3 or 4 months to install a defense for a friend of mine at a community college, and planned on staying, but things didn't work out, and by that time I kind of was settled here.
Yeah.
Hard to move back to Southern California.
Yeah.
Once you sell,
yeah,
it's not the same.
The price of living is a little bit different. And
so that's what in 2018, which was when Coach Thomas decided to go into private business, was the last year that he and I coached at the college.
Yeah.
And so ever since, this when this opportunity came up, he ran it by me. We went out to lunch, and I pretty much said before he could finish the sentence, I go, "Sure, I'm in."
Yeah. That's actually was going to be my next question: was how hard did he have to sell you on getting here?
Not at all. Not at all. I really, a couple things. I really enjoy. I think anybody will tell you that is moved through a period of time in the profession that you really enjoy coaching the players and on the field and the X's and O's. It has grown. My first year, I graduated from Fresno State. My senior year was 1969, so my first year of coaching was 70. So I can, from personal experience, write a history book of how the job of coaching has grown exponentially to include so many outlying things that for all kinds of reasons, there's just so much more to it. As it, when I played, we had 2 calls, and but so within all of the playbooks were that thick. If there was one, now they're that thick. But that's the stuff you enjoy, and then the coaching, but the recruiting and the off the field problems and the management and at the levels that we were at, even at like I said, Fresno State, Cal State Fullerton, we were the have-nots. You didn't have. It's probably growing now, but at one time they published something about 5 years ago that Nick Saban had a football, not coaching staff on the field, obviously, but group of support people of 100.
Oh my, yeah.
And it's a joke. Well, if he came here to Dodge City, first he wouldn't be successful. First he'd go, "Well, who's in charge of that?" They go, "Well, that would be
you,
as is behind us here."
Yeah, exactly.
Putting the field down.
Yeah, let's say if you're hearing some stuff in the background or seeing stuff in the background, we're actually rolling out the turf tonight that we're getting ready to play on, and we'll get guys pulled in just over a month. And
so anyway, that part of coaching is, particularly as you get older, gets be burdened. But this is the perfect. There's no recruiting. You're signing the contracts. There seems to be
Yeah.
plenty of candidates out
Yeah.
there that want to come
Yeah.
in and play. They call you. You don't have to run down and beg them to
Yeah.
return your text message or whatever.
Yeah.
And you come in and you coach.
Yeah.
And in the off season, uh, you're the weight strength coach, you're the conditioning coach, you're the everything coach. So along with the recruiting, so it's the best part of the coaching to come in and coach guys, and obviously these are pretty accomplished players.
Yeah.
They've been through the lower levels. Some are just graduating from college, but at high level of success there, and a lot of them have already played at the professional level, and some. So it was like a no-brainer, and it fits a retired guy perfect.
I bet so. So, with as much experience as what you've had, I know I might catch you off guard with this, but what's been your favorite era of football to coach in?
I have to say that I've enjoyed them all. They've just been different. The players themselves and the interaction, and I have several people that I don't know if I'd like to call them friends, but I would be honored to call them friends. But people that I have friend relationships with that are coaching the NFL. I've spent 5 years going down to the Miami Dolphins when Jimmy Johnson was the defense that we ran for the last probably 30 years of my career was the Jimmy Johnson 4-3.
Okay.
And came from I sort of followed it. Not when he was at University of Miami, we weren't, but when I got to Cerritos, we switched to it, and he was at Dallas at the time. So we spent 4 or 5 years. We got into Dallas. We went down there for a week and got to sit in the meeting rooms and watch the tape, meet with the coaches, and then when he moved to the Dolphins, and those guys will tell you, and I saw it for myself when I was there. Even those guys are the same. They want to be coached. They want people to tell them how to get better. That part of it has been pretty much uninterrupted. There are a lot of times now players just have more problems. That are off the field. That affect their lives, which change how. Everybody has that bad day when they come to work. When you're 18 and 20, the bad day, when you're having a bad day, everybody has a bad day too. That type of thing. But I don't, there was things about each. Things were simpler back then, and some went in good ways, some in bad ways. I enjoy the X's and O's. So I've enjoyed the progress of the game where it's more intense. And Coach Thomas will verify this. Not always in a positive way, but I'm a meeting kind of guy, and I love meetings, and I love the X's and O's, and I love to do that sort of stuff. And I honestly, when I played, we never had a weight program. All the way through Fresno State, we didn't have a weight program. So that was something that came into being. We didn't have a whole lot of meetings. First of all, there was, like I said, when I played at Fresno State, we ran 2 deep. We ran the old 3. We called it the 50 in those days. Because those 2 down outside guys were not stand-up backers. They were real down, hand on the ground. We rushed 5 and dropped 2 linebackers. And so there wasn't, you didn't have all of that. But I loved playing. I loved the. We have been lucky here to have. Coach Thomas and I, just our time together at College of DuPage in Chicago, and here to have some special groups. When we came here, and I know it's been talked about on these podcasts because he's been on there, but Dodge City hadn't won, and in that first year when we walked into that room, the coach had got let go in the middle of the season. We didn't. Our first day was January 2nd. and there wasn't anybody there to cultivate anybody,
Yeah.
who was left. So kids just wandered off. They had not
Mhm.
the slightest idea. Nobody came in and said, "Hey, listen, we're going to bring in a coach and everything
Yeah.
will be good." How you would like to see it. So
Mhm.
our first meeting, there was a group that showed up that looked like like F Troop, really.
Yeah.
Most of them didn't leave because nobody really wanted
Yeah.
them. And then we brought with us about six, I think it was 6 or 7,
Mhm.
from a team that one of the clinching facts to that affected Coach Thomas coming here to Dodge
Mhm.
City is the athletic director at the time uh, drove to the College of DuPage in the suburbs of Chicago. Was a non-scholarship,
Mhm.
non-dorm, Division III,
Yeah.
and we came here and played. What's the NEO,
Mhm.
who was rated really pretty high. I want to
Yeah.
say they were 10th or 8th or whatever, and he came to the game because it was
Mhm.
played in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
Kansas,
Okay.
and we had no business beating them. But we beat them
Mhm.
badly, really. The score at the end, we played some guys so they
Yeah.
could,
Yeah.
not for them, but so our
Yeah.
guys could.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the clinching, and that was special to come
Mhm.
here that first year. We had some of those players that came with us, but we went to a bowl game the first year and won
Yeah.
6 games,
Mhm.
and that part is, we our team in that won the conference championship in 2015
Mhm.
was a special group. So each team has it. So
Yeah.
that part has been, I think, pretty consistent, and
Mhm.
and that's again. I know you've been in some of the
Yeah.
meetings, not to
Yeah.
mention having him on here,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
the culture, and that's the
Mhm.
the uh, the blueprint that
Yeah.
Coach Thomas wants to bring
Yeah.
here. With and it the thing about it, and that I appreciated so much of going to the NFL clubs is just the same.
Yeah.
It really is.
Mhm.
At that level, they still want to be coached. They
Yeah.
still want to be part of something special.
Mhm.
There are disruptions that may come within the team
Yeah.
can sidetrack their season just the
Mhm.
same way it can a high school team
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's a doable, and it's a again, when you listen to these guys, after the Super Bowl, um, there were a lot of comments from the Chiefs players about how they hung together and
Yeah.
how that team chemistry and
Yeah.
that team thing made the success
Mhm.
more than the same players, same
Yeah.
guys who won it last year. But
Yeah.
I don't know that it was the same feeling. So that
Mhm.
part has gone, I think, through the. I was fortunate enough to be part of some of those teams
Yeah.
as a player, and you never forget it.
Yeah. Um, excuse me. So through all that, you have a lot of experience within the game, and like you said, the kind of how Coach Thomas has it. I don't remember. I think I was telling Pat that sitting when we sat down in Gary's basement, looking at what the season was going to look like, and who we had signed, who we were looking at trying to get. I told Pat, I said it felt like, because I spent 2 years of my college life being a student assistant, and I told Pat it felt like we were back in the college recruiting room, just sitting down, making sure everything was precise to a point. And
one of the coaches, the gentleman that you're obviously Jimmy Johnson isn't
Mhm.
inviting you down to Washington.
Yeah,
You, you may see him run by on the field. You
Yeah.
don't spend time with him, but so some assistant
Mhm.
and the gentleman we were with, who we struck up a relationship with, and was in charge of making sure
Mhm.
we got everything we have to
Yeah.
have. You it's like going to the White House. You go
Yeah.
to one of their practice facilities. You
Yeah.
don't get in without a badge.
Yeah.
The badge is, that badge is for you to go to all levels. So this one's only one level.
Yeah.
And but what he said, he was a successful college coach. He was a
Mhm.
head coach at Wyoming. He coached with Vince Dooley at Georgia,
Mhm.
and they won the national championship. And when we came there, it's always interesting when you go to the NFL. because very similar to what you just talked about. Everybody in the building is on the same
Yeah.
page. So you'll talk to somebody, go, oh yeah, well, we do this and that, and you talk to the next guy, and you go, is this written somewhere?
Yeah.
They're all. And one of the things he said, and was echoed by, he said, well, this is Jimmy runs this like a college program.
Yeah.
And I said, what's mean? He goes, it's there's rules and there's this and that, and it's organized and um, not not the kind of stuff that you see a lot of
Yeah.
because it's not the prettiest side of the
Yeah.
NFL.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, there are meeting rooms where the coach, NFL coach now, who's coaching the DBs or linemen, can't criticize the player.
Yeah.
In that meeting room, he has to take him aside and go, hey, it'd be nice if
Yeah.
if you like didn't get beat, stayed on
Yeah.
top of the route, if you want,
Yeah.
and I have friends that coach in the league and said, it's just, but he believed, and I would tend to agree with him, that that's why they were successful, why Jimmy Johnson was successful, why he ran his teams that way. So it's funny that I just today, the coach that I worked for 19 years at Cerritos, all my stops were like 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and I was at Cerritos for 19, and that's where I met. Gary has gone into coaching since then from there. And the other coach I had talked about, that was the head coach at DuPage that we worked for. He was from Cerritos, and I don't know. And I've told them this. I don't know if they realize it, but this coach is legendary there. He was there for like, I don't know, 30, 35 years, and in their own ways they have adapted things that he did for so long that were so successful, and they put their own spin on it, but it's still, I just talked to him today. I gave him a call. I haven't talked to him in a while, and so yeah, it's very, but we don't know any other way, to be honest with you, and that is, and it's more and more. You're seeing more and more of that in the NFL now. There's less and less of that. In the old days when players used to, there was a guy named at Fresno State. There was we hired a coach. His name was Billy Baird. He was from Fresno area. And didn't play at Fresno State, but was from that area, and he was back in town, and he played with Joe Namath on that championship team, and we had hired him to coach the DBs, and part of it was, the recruiting and all that stuff that come. Those guys got the big ring, the big Jets ring, and played with Joe Namath. And he was a great guy and a horrible coach. And he used to sit there and say, he goes, we never had these meetings. We didn't have, I used to just tell, hey, Joe, watch, so-and-so over here. And that, that sort of was the game, the way the game was. So this moving forward, I don't think you're seeing very many successful teams all the way to the top that aren't, they hand you a book, and you can know what you're going to be doing on, January 15th at 3:15. Even if they're not in the playoffs, there's a meeting was planned.
Oh yeah,
they already had that.
Yeah.
So and that's what Coach Thomas does. He's very good with the paperwork, and you get a plan. Poor guy, because of some of the rules stuff that changed. That I just talked to him yesterday. I said, "It changed. What's the latest edition of the calendar?"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because last time that I had talked to him, we were couldn't start till 3 weeks before, so it would have been the 7th. And he goes, "Oh, that's changed back to the 1st."
Yeah.
So that's one of the problems. At least with computers now, you can make those changes a lot easier.
Yeah. I'm sure it hasn't always been easy to just go in and change something. But speaking kind of the rules with the AFL, have the Iron Man. So guys are going to have to play both ways. I guess, what are your excitements about that? What do you think some of the challenges might be from a defensive coordinator standpoint?
Well, the challenges are, first of all, the last time that I have been around going both ways, I was in high school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I graduated in 1966. I went to Fullerton Junior College, and it was 2 platoon.
Yeah.
And that was in '66,
Yeah.
and everybody we played was. So it's a really, I'm for some people, some of our players who are just
Yeah.
coming out of college, this might be the first time
Yeah.
that they've. Now, some of them, if they were at smaller high schools,
Yeah.
probably had that opportunity. But the whole point of going to platoon was so you could specialize and you could get better at stuff
Yeah.
that if I've stolen most everything in 50 years from somebody, but there was a coach that is coaching. He said there's given everything is equal,
Mm-hmm.
which when you're getting to these levels, it pretty much is
Yeah.
because it's not high school. Who lives down the block is the guy
Yeah.
you get. He
Yeah.
doesn't, here we're signing people that
Mhm.
fit certain levels. So if you're the relatively same height, same speed, same, you like to play, you're a hard worker, I'm a
Yeah.
hard worker, you watch tape, I watch tape. It gets down to two things. It gets down, we were in college at the time, but he used to say it gets down to your ability uh, to want to play like a college football player
Mhm.
and all that involves, and your technique.
Mhm.
So as football sort of evolved out of the two platoon system, it was, well, how can I get an edge on you? So
Yeah.
they go, well, I'm going to go over here and work on defense all day, and
Yeah.
you're going to go offense
Yeah.
for a half hour and defense for a half hour,
Mhm.
and I should have the edge on you. I should be
Yeah.
able to do more because there's more time. There's
Yeah.
more. I should be able to excel at my technique because I can
Yeah.
do it for uh, 20 minutes
Yeah.
or you might get five over there. There's five over there. And another coach told me one time, and I'm not sure. I'm not a big psychological guy, but he said, I think there's a problem because you're with a psyche when you're talking to players and you're
Mhm.
going, you're an offensive lineman and you step like this and set. No one, that's a technique that no one can get by. It says,
Mhm.
isn't, well, coach, what? No, this will cover it. And then you flip to the other side. Well, your defense will use this pass rush move and
Yeah.
nobody can block you. So somewhere along the time you kind of get in a conflict and
Yeah.
go, which is really better.
Yeah.
But so it's unique uh, for all of us on our staff
Yeah.
because we haven't been with that. Um, at the same time, it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
So I think to me, a lot of it will come down to, and I know Coach Thomas has really spent a lot of time and energy into trying to make sure that the people that we are signing contracts have some ability
Yeah.
that they may, on a scale of 1 to 10, they may not be a 10 offensive tackle, but they're a good solid 8.5, but they're a good 7 on if they play defense.
Yeah.
Instead of, well, he's a 10, because there are offensive tackles that guys in the NFL, I don't think they could take a snap in college at the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
It's just not,
Yeah.
they're in a 2-point stance, they're 6'7", they're doing this all day.
Yeah.
And that's not what you do as an inside tackle. So setting your roster to be able to understand
Yeah.
that those people are going to go both ways. And I think he's done a good job. We'll see here pretty soon. And
Yeah.
then I think the time that we're going to, and the organization of practice and breakdown of it to get the most out of the time that we have will be a big part if we do a better job than somebody else. And if they're just saying, well, he's an offensive guy, when he's on defense we're just going to tell him to stay back there, don't get beat
Yeah.
deep. I don't think that's a recipe. I think he's going to have to be better than that.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Particularly if our guy can maybe not be as good as the starting corner, but he's going to be more than stand back there and don't
Yeah.
let him throw it over your head. So.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I did misspeak. I meant to say from a defensive secondary standpoint. I think I said coordinator.
Right. Yeah.
But, anyhow, what are you looking forward to most with getting a coach in the Arena League?
And the same thing I always look forward to coaching. I love teaching,
Mhm.
and I love coaching on the field, and I love. It's funny because when I was a player, I wasn't the most talented player. I was two things that got me through. First of all, I was actually kind of big for the era that I
Yeah.
played in. In my senior year in college, I was a 225-pound linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
which there was a lot of linebackers in the NFL that weren't
Yeah.
that heavy. I wasn't a whole lot taller, but I was really pretty tough, and and or some people say, dumb. He'd run into anything
Yeah.
because he's not very smart. But I heard a guy one time say, the guys at Stanford sometimes you don't want them too smart because they're going to go, well, why would I run into that
Yeah.
guy? But and I really loved the game and I understood it. I just had and I knew that my physical skill set was not superior
Mm-hmm.
to a whole lot of people, and so I thought that the way to have an edge was to be very cerebral about the game
Mm-hmm.
and not take a wrong step. Guys that are really good at linebackers step there. Oh, the ball's going that way. Go run him down.
Mm-hmm.
If I step that way, then they'll be in the end zone by the
Yeah.
time I came back. But I did not like drills and technique work
Mm-hmm.
because that really kind of strips you of
Yeah.
the if you want to call it that, a chance to hide behind the
Yeah.
game where you can use your head and you're
Yeah.
diagnosing. And yet, as a coach, I'm a almost irritating drill technique
Yeah.
type of person. And I like that. I like
Mm-hmm.
teaching on the deal, and I think that um, there are so many coaches, and a lot of the players want to do that just, well, he's a great athlete, leave him alone, let him
Yeah.
go out there. But you see on Sunday, every week you see, well, take the play in the Super Bowl where they didn't cover the back.
Yeah.
Clearly, somebody after 20 games
Mm-hmm.
and been in the NFL for more than a year, couldn't figure out that he had that guy.
Yeah.
And that's unforgivable. And
Yeah.
that sort of thing is, you see NFL safeties, go like this, and the ball goes over their head,
Yeah.
and you're going. I had a thought I have to throw in that one of the guys in the NFL told me, because we were talking about that. In fact, I think the Dolphins, we were watching their tape of their
Mm-hmm.
season, and somebody did that.
Yeah.
He went, here he was, and he was great. He's going up and looking like and the ball just goes over his head.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, he said, I have a theory why that happens. He said, kids don't play catch in the backyard with their dads anymore.
Yeah.
He said, when you think about it, I mean, I grew up we played in the streets.
Yeah.
And we played till the street lights came on. But that ability to judge a ball, because you don't see a lot of baseball player football. You don't see a lot of double sport anybody, partly because of the specialization.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. I like being out here, and I
Mm-hmm.
like teaching. I really like the X's and O's, but I'm not sure that we're going to have a ton of that on defense, particularly with the rules. They just don't provide you with those linebackers. Going to be one of the not physically, but almost one of the easiest positions to play, because you have not very many choices if you're the Mike.
Yeah.
So
go or stay.
Yeah, rush and stand there, and if the quarterback takes off, try to go get him.
Yeah. Well, Coach Callahan, as we wrap tonight up, is there anything else you want to tell the fans?
I would like to really see folks come out and see the game. First of all, it's going to be different than what's been here, so it's new. That style of play has not been prevalent.
Yeah.
And the second part, I have to say that I was not when you're coaching, it's 12 months out of the year, and and you have very tunnel vision, and sometimes I think I had more tunnel vision than I even imagined, because I watch the news. I got time to watch the news now. Oh man, I said, I never worried about that one. I was going, I got to need to stop that off tackle play. I don't have time to worry about whether they're going to drop nuclear bombs on us. Football will go on, right? And I think that we had one of our coaches at Dodge City started coaching with the law.
Mm-hmm.
Just pick up a couple extra bucks, and then
Yeah.
so came to some games, and it was much more than I thought it would
Yeah.
be. And it was interesting. It was entertaining. They do a great job in
Yeah.
surrounding the game itself
Mm-hmm.
with other things. I think it's really. I have two granddaughters, and when the youngest one is 2, so she's not there yet, but the oldest one is 9, and she's. I don't see her when we get in here. She's
Yeah.
down there running on
No.
the field,
Yeah.
and we have some players from Dodge City who played for the team a couple years back, and they knew her because I used to have to pick her up
Yeah.
sometimes, and she'd be in the office with us
Yeah.
and that, and she got to run out with them in one of those
Yeah.
introduction deals. So I would, just encourage people to come and take a look. I think it's and we plan on putting a product out there
Yeah.
that they'll want to come back and see. So
I mean, that's the
hopefully
goal.
we hold up our end.
Yeah. Well, fans, we want to thank you for tuning in. Coach, I want to thank you for being on tonight.
I appreciate it. So,
We look forward to what 2024 is going to be. Southwest Kansas, don't forget, there is a storm coming.